Welcome to the Attractions Group podcast. This is episode 47. I'm Ryan Sir. With me, as always, is my hostess with the mostest, co-hostess with the mostest, Don Helbig. Don, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. 47, almost at that 50 mark. Hard to believe we've been doing this for a little over a year now, Ryan.
I can't imagine the drone show we're going to have for our 50th episode.
We need something special for that one. We really got to think about
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Well, we have 3 weeks to think about it theoretically, unless we miss something, which we don't plan on doing. But yeah, 47. So almost a whole year's worth. We did hit the 1 year mark last week, I think. But yeah, I mean, obviously, between Christmas and New Year's and stuff, we didn't do an episode. And
Right.
every once in a while we're out of town, but nonetheless. So for those of you watching on YouTube, welcome. If you prefer the audio version, then we're available on your favorite podcast apps, Google, Apple, Spotify, and so on. If you prefer the video, we're on YouTube. If you search for the Attractions Group podcast, and follow us on Twitter at attractions_GRP. Just a couple weeks ago, we did an interactive thing where we had you guys send us our questions. We had a ton of fun with it and answered a ton of people's questions about the industry and so on. So we would love for you to do that at attractions_GRP. And while you're at it, if you are a business owner and you would like a sponsorship opportunity, then send us a private message. We do have some packages available. All right. So, Don, today's going to be a kind of different episode because, normally we have like some sort of distinct subject matter and we do a lot of like questions and answers and, we have a lot of guests, but, that's not how podcasts normally work. That's more like a radio show or talk show. So we're going to do one that's more like a podcast because we got a lot to discuss today. So you just went on a trip to the West Virginia area. So tell me about that.
I did. It was, an opportunity for my wife and I to just get away and get out of town. My daughter's wedding's coming up in early July. So, just that kind of break between now and then to just, do something fun, get away. And we had not been to West Virginia for a long time. We passed through, but we had not stopped and spent any time there. So we thought it was a good opportunity to do so. And we left on, Friday after I got, home from work. And, it's only a 3-hour drive from my house, just a little bit under 3 hours. So, it was a quick trip, but, I had a lot of fun, packed a lot in while I was there.
Yeah, I've been following you on social media and stuff. It looks like you got a ton of things done. And yeah, it's not far. If you're in the Cincinnati market, it's a blink of an eye, especially, if you're proportional, you're going to like Pittsburgh or Virginia or something. West Virginia is the first stop, so that's pretty close.
Yeah, and I found out that, going through like Ironton, Ohio, it's really nice this time of year through there.
Yeah, I've actually been through Ironton on the way through West Virginia to Richmond, Virginia before, so it's funny that you say that. So, Don, we typically don't go places unless there's a theme park there.
That's right.
So when people think of theme parks, they don't necessarily think of Huntington, West Virginia, but boy, do we have a park for them. Tell us about the park that's in West Virginia.
Yeah, it's not a theme park. It's an amusement park, and it is the only park in West Virginia. It is Camden Park. It's a traditional amusement park. It's got a rich history. It was established in 1903, starting out as a picnic spot. It's interesting how so many of those old parks from late 1800s, early 1900s started out as a picnic spot. But it was put there by the Camden Interstate Railway Company, and then eventually it emerged into, they started adding some rides and things like that. But I had not been to Camden Park in years. It was, I would come back from Greensboro, North Carolina, coming through that way, and I would stop, and get in a few rides, on my way back to Cincinnati. And but it had been 26, 27 years since I had been there, and we were going there, so I wanted to make sure that I visited this park. It was a park that I had a lot of concern about during the pandemic. It's family owned. So it was really going to be a struggle for them to get back open. And it was nice to see a pretty decent crowd there. If you're living in that area, there was a time where a visit to Camden Park was the thing to do, and it's still a lot of fun for everybody down there. But not the park that it was, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. There's some rides that have been retired there. Some great classic rides like the Spider, which is otherwise known as the Monster in some other parks.
Mm-hmm.
The Scrambler's been retired. There was a roller coaster, it was called the Thunderbolt Express, and some may have remembered that as the Screaming Demon, which operated at Kings Island from 1977 to 1987. So those rides were all gone, from my last visit there, but still some classics. The most famous attraction there is the Big Dipper roller coaster, and that was built in 1958. It replaced an earlier roller coaster that was built in that same spot that was built in 1912 and demolished in 1957. It's a lot of fun on that coaster. I mean, it's old, it's rickety, but just a fun ride. It features those original, what we call those Century Flyer cars. It's got the working headlights on the front. That classic figure 8 track. So just a lot of fun, and to get back on that ride, I enjoyed it, and it has a historical significance. So it's an ACE landmark coaster, the American Coaster Enthusiast giving it that designation back in 2019. So it was fun to ride that, and it conjured up a lot of memories that I had of that coaster. But there's a lot of other attractions there that I really like too. The Haunted House. And it's just these generic names that they have there for these things. But the Haunted House, that opened in 1919. It was built by Pretzel Amusement Ride Company. It's a dark ride inspired by these ghost stories, monster movies, mad scientists, and you get in this vehicle and you ride along a dark, winding corridor, through different rooms. You got sudden and unexpected little turns and drops. You got lights that come popping on, these different noises, these different illuminated images come up. Just a lot of fun too to go back, and that's like as old school as it gets with something like that. So it's one of the best dark rides I've ever been on, and it was great to see that is still operational, still in pretty good shape. So that was fun too. And then other rides that I did while I was there, they have a train ride. It's kind of a mini train, but still a lot of fun, and takes you around like the back part of the park. So kind of scenic. Crown Metal Products created that attraction for them. They got a tilt-a-whirl, the Skyliner Sky Ride that opened in the 1970s. And that has got those old school bars that you pull down on each side of you. You could lift it up while you're riding if you wanted to. So kind of a little bit scary, but still fun. But a nice scenic view of the park while you're on that attraction. The Whip that they have, 1924, so it's 99 years old, so going to be 100 next year. Not too many of those left in the country, so it was good to be able to get an opportunity to experience that attraction again. So just really a lot of fun there. They've got a flume ride as well. Guests were really enjoying that. It was a nice, warm day, so that was kind of the right time to hit that. A carousel, which almost opened with the park. They opened in 1903. The carousel came along in 1907 by most accounts, but I was able to ride that. And what was fun about that ride is there wasn't anybody in line for it when I went over to it. So I get in, and they started up, and then people started to get in line for it. But the ride operator starts talking to all these people, and it seemed like my ride was never going to end. I just kept going round and round and round and round. So my ride cycle was probably close to about 4 or 5 minutes, which is pretty long for a carousel ride. But
who made the carousel? Do you know?
That was Philadelphia Toboggan.
Oh, it was PTC. Do you know what number
PTC, it is? Yeah. I don't know what number it is, but if it opened in 1907, it's probably, it was before, some of the other ones that we're very familiar with, like the Grand Carousel at Kings Island. But, the horses are still in good shape. It's got a nice, thing around it, where it operates. So it's undercover. And, but that seemed to be, after I got off the ride, the line for that was pretty long the rest of the day. But it's nice to see people there. And, they've got your traditional, amusement park food from the olden days that you would have expected. You've got your pizza, your hot dogs, a hamburger, and cotton candy. And I will tell you, Ryan, I think they are in the argument for the best cotton candy in the industry.
What makes their cotton candy so special?
I don't know. I really don't know. It just has a different taste to it. Um, but it's plentiful, so when you buy it, you get a pretty good portion of it. But just to go back and go to a park like that, we're used to what parks look like today, Walt Disney World, Universal, you go to the Six Flags parks, the Cedar Fair parks, a lot of state of the art things. And then you go to Camden Park, and it's like it used to be in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, so real old school. But what really surprised me too was I posted, some pictures on my Facebook, and just the engagement that it got, and so many people, had memories of Camden Park. They grew up there. That's where their childhood was. It was maybe their first job that they ever had. Their, great grandfather went there, and then, their grandfather, and then their father, and then they go there and they took their kids there. Someone said that the post just really warmed their hearts. So that was good to see too, that that park has significant meaning to a lot of people.
That's really cool. I mean, your classic amusement parks, that's kind of an attraction in itself just to see, it's like stepping back in time. I always felt that way with,
It
um,
was.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I always felt that way with like, Swordsville Lake up here and, to a lesser extent, even like Stricker's Grove here is,
Well, that's a
it's,
good comparable.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good comparable. Before it became Americana, but what Swordsville was in the 60s and 70s, that's what Camden is like. Very, very similar. A lot of concrete, not a lot of trees or anything like that.
Mhm.
But it really reminded me. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. While I was there, and after I left, this was a throwback to me of what Swordsville Lake was like when I was a child, and it was kind of an annual trip for my family and I.
Yeah, we used to go to Swordsville Lake once a year as well. A lot of people went to parks like because their families had like company picnics there and stuff. But I was never in that situation, so we would just go. Um, but yeah, so you talked about the haunted house. Like, is that you said it's an older one? Is it the kind that has the vehicles that like slam through the doors and stuff?
Yep, a little bit on that. The other thing about it is when you come back in, there aren't any brakes that stop you. It's manually stopped by the ride operator. So it comes
Yeah.
flying around the corner, and the ride operator gets right in front of it and stops it. Then they just push it down to the next guy to get you on. There were 3 vehicles running,
Hmm.
so not the highest capacity, ride by any means, but it had the longest line. And it was the first ride that I rode because I had the most vivid memories of that, from my previous visits there, in the 80s and through my years living in Greensboro in the 90s. And um, just a lot of fun. And it just conjured back up those memories. It was like I had just ridden it,
Hmm.
but, there's a lot of dark rides out there that are pretty good. But this is one of those, I would put this in like the top 5 that's out there. I mean, it's a classic, it's old, it feels old, but it feels like it takes you back to a different time.
Yeah. Is Camden Park a pay one price or is it ticket to
It's
ride?
pay one price.
Oh, it is.
Pay one price. Yeah, it is. Now it is. Pay one price. Um, you know, Again, old school as you can get with that. Where if you wanted to go online, you can get a discount on your tickets. Now it's not discounted tickets online. A discount on your tickets. You got to print out the coupon and bring it to the park and turn it in that way. But just very traditional with everything there. And I want to go back again. I was telling my wife we got to go back to West Virginia again. It's so close, but just get more pictures and get some video and just kind of relive those memories again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that's really cool. So I see that not only do they have a couple like classics, I saw by the way I was looking at RCDB and I love those old National Amusement Device trains. I think you called them what
Hmm.
Century Flyers. I don't think
Century Flyer, yeah.
I've never heard that terminology, but that's kind of an appropriate name. But they have one of those SBF Visa spinning coasters too. Did you ride that?
That one I did not do. I'm still trying to recovering from my pinched nerve, so I didn't want to do anything that was going to maybe potentially, if I wasn't familiar with it, I didn't want to do it. Just not knowing how it would affect my arm and hand and everything.
Yeah, I mean
But I watched it.
yeah,
I watched it
it's free
and watched
spinning,
everyone else having
so
fun on it.
It's free spinning, so I could see that being a problem. And I'm looking at pictures. This is on RCDB of the dark ride, and it looks like it's got the old classic dips and stuff where it's like
It does.
it's either going
It
to.
does. Yeah. You go around, you go up a chain, like a small chain lift, I don't know how high you go up, maybe 15, 20 feet or something.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have like you turn around a corner, you go through a couple of rooms, you turn around a corner, and then you go down a drop, which is visible, the guest in the park. And if you're waiting in line, it goes right by you. And then that's when you really start your ride going through the house.
That's really cool. Has it been
But
modernized at all?
just for that alone and the Big Dipper, just those two attractions, it's worth going to Camden Park just to experience, just rides like they just don't make them like that anymore.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about the Sky Ride. So, what does it go over? Does it go over the whole park or a lake or what?
No, it's just a section of the park. It's you kind of go toward the back side of it, and then you turn around and come back. But it's a long stretch, so it's not a short ride by any means. And like I said, you just sit in the seat, and then on each side you've got a little bar that comes down. There's a little bit of a gap between the two bars, but nothing really holding you in. So again, you would never see that today again either.
Yeah, I think my favorite Sky Ride, like not to go off on a tangent, is the one from Busch Gardens, Tampa, because it makes 90-degree turns, and I still haven't figured out how that works. You know?
Yeah, not a 90-degree turn here. You just turn around and come back.
Now, do you ride it like all the way around and back, or just one direction, or is it
Yes,
optional?
yeah, you go all the way down, and then it turns around and comes all the way back.
Oh, that's really cool. Awesome. I mean, like ballpark, like what's it cost to go? I mean, I guess you can always just check the website, but you mentioned that they're
You're going to get in there with somewhere between $20 and $25, depending on what day of the week it is. If you're going to go, definitely check out the operating calendar because it's a little odd. There are days during the week that they're closed. If I had wanted to go on that Friday, it wasn't going to be open, but it was open Saturday, Sunday, and then it's open a couple of days during the week. So there's just kind of an inconsistent operating calendar. So you definitely want to check that out before you make plans to go. But it really is something that if you're a fan of the industry and you've never been to Camden Park, you got to make that trip. Not only for yourself to be able to experience all that history and nostalgia, but you want to see parks like that stick around for the long run. And like I said, with the pandemic, I was concerned about it.
Mhm.
There's a lot of small parks that I was concerned about, a lot of small businesses I was concerned about. They made it through, they're operating, but they're not, back to where they were maybe before that. But it was good to finally see, that when I went there, at least there was a decent crowd there.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm looking at their website. And it looks like general admission, this is 2023. So if you're listening to it in the future, this is subject to change, of course. But general admission for weekdays and Sundays is $22.99. And for Saturdays, it's $24.99. And then they have various special rates for their Starlight, which is after 4:30, and Spooktacular, which I'm assuming is their Halloween event, and so on.
Oh, wait a minute, yeah.
So that's really cool. Awesome.
But you think about it, and if you were growing up in that Huntington, Charleston area, this was the big thing that you did during the summer, and it was multi-generational. So we're all used to these state-of-the-art parks nowadays, but I really think that it's worth taking that step back in time and visiting a park like this.
Yeah, I'm actually like scrolling through their website, which is obviously camdenpark.com, and just looking at the sampling. So I've never been there, as you probably, well, most of you guys probably figured out by now. But it's funny how it's like old rides peppered in with new ones. Like I'm seeing like
Yeah,
a bunch of brand new Zamperla stuff. We've got you know, Larson flying scooters, but you've got a Tilt-A-Whirl, which is probably 50 years old, and then you've got the Haunted House, which is several decades old, but then you got the spinning coaster, which came out about 5 years ago. So
you got the Whip, which is like I said, 99 years old. So you got a lot of you got some attractions over 100 years old, and you've got some in their 90s.
yeah, the Sky Ride in the picture there looks abandoned. It's got like holes in the backs of the seats. Does that? Yeah, do you recall anything like that?
No,
Uh,
no, I don't remember the holes in the back of the seat. I just remember, looking at it and thinking that it's a lot older than it looked.
yeah, so just looking at the dining situation there. It looks like it's I keep on looking at this, and this reminds me of like a Cedar Point history book because it's a bunch of like dead-eyed kids staring at the camera from like the 1800s. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny, but they have corn dogs and stuff, typical food. So that's cool. I'm glad you had fun down there.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, Ryan, it does not look a day over 120.
I think they probably moisturize the midways and stuff, but that's
No, it's
awesome.
it's 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 nice. It's nice. Like I said, it's it's not you're not going to travel there multiple times a year for it. But if you're passing through that area, you're going through West Virginia, you have to do it to get to some other parks that people like to travel to from our part of the country. And that, just make a stop, spend 2 or 3 hours there. You'll be glad that you did.
So that was gonna be my next question. Based on your experience, 2 or 3 hours you think is the realistic expectation for?
Yeah, I think especially if you're going during the week, you can get in all the rides that you want to ride, and within 3 hours.
That's pretty cool. Awesome. What else did you do down there besides Camden Park?
Well, on the Saturday, my wife said, "I got a surprise for you for lunch." So I'm thinking she found a chicken wing place or something like that. But we're driving and we're in Lesage, West Virginia, all of a sudden, and there's this roadside attraction that was quirky, but very charming. It's called Hillbilly Hotdogs, and it is what it sounds like. A lot of photo ops, so bring your camera if you're going to do this, but just a ton of photo ops. But just great hot dogs. So it's you got these two school buses that they've got kind of parked where you can go in and you can eat inside the school buses because they got like tables and things set up in there. You go in a school bus to order your food, and that's where the kitchen and that is that they've made. But picnic tables outside, but it just looks like a big a junkyard outside. So I was amused by it. But the hot dogs, I would put it as some of the best hot dogs that I've ever had, and there's all different kind of combinations. Now, if you're from West Virginia and you say, give me a hot dog with everything on it, that's going to be the hot dog, chili sauce, mustard, onions, coleslaw. That's how they eat the hot dogs a lot down there. But a lot of different combinations. They had a pizza dog. They had a thing called the Thundering Herd dog, which had habanero sauce, nacho cheese, chili sauce, jalapenos, diced onions, coleslaw, just the works on that one. They had something called the Home Wrecker, which is one of the most popular hot dogs. And I'll listen to this one. It's 15 inches.
Okay.
It's 1 pound. It's a 15-inch, 1 pound hot dog. It's got all the toppings that you can imagine on it, which is going to weigh 2 pounds just on the toppings. 2 pounds on the toppings. It's $22.50, but it's a ton of food. You could probably feed a family of 4 with that one. Then they've got the Widowmaker, which is 30 inches long, 2 pounds on the hot dog, but 4 pounds of toppings, and it's $35.50 for that one. So you go to a place and you think about, imagine getting your big large extra large pizza to bring home, something like that. But here's this hot dog that it really weighs a lot to even try to carry that back to your table. For me, I got a little bit more traditional. I got the basic hillbilly dog. It was deep fried. It had mustard on it. It had the chili sauce, and it had the cheese. I thought it was outstanding. I think the chili that they put on that, it was amazing. Amazing. The best chili I've ever had on a hot dog. I definitely want to go back there. So we're talking about Hillbilly Hot Dogs in Lesage, West Virginia. So definitely put that on your bucket list of things to do. Again, a lot of photo ops. And just I love those like roadside attractions like this. You always want to stop and take a look around, but very quirky, very charming, but definitely something you want to put on your bucket list.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at their website right now, and it looks like the hillbilly dog. I'm guessing you opted without onions then?
I did. Yeah, I'm not going to
Good
put that
good
on there.
choice, good choice. Onions are offensive to me and many others. Yeah, it's That seems like a place that'll take a couple years off your life, but it kind of reminds me of like it's the Agave and Rye. For those of you in the Cincinnati area, Agave and Rye is like it's a taco place, but they have like pizza tacos and
Hmm.
pulled pork tacos. Like they'll take any other food item and make it into a taco and somehow make it work. But I'm looking at their website and they've got like the hillbilly dog, which you described, and like the taco dog, the pizza dog, and a bunch of other stuff, which has like cute little names. But it doesn't seem terribly expensive. I mean, yours was according to their website, $3.75. If that's what you ate,
That was it.
yeah.
Yeah, that
And
was
one
it.
of, one of
And
them
it
was enough
was,
to fill you up.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, just a tremendous value. But then you got your sides too. The garlic, bluegrass, cheese fries. That's a can't miss.
Yeah. So original Widowmaker, the 15-inch, by the way, just to reiterate,
Yeah.
is 22.50. It's 1 pound of weenie and 2 pounds of
Hmm.
toppings. I have that on my dating profile too. The original
Ryan. The other one's the bigger one though,
the
the Widowmaker one, the 30
that's
inch.
30-inch, 2 pounds of weenie and 4 pounds of top. It doesn't say what toppings they are though. Like, do you pick that?
You just pick what you want and have them throw it on it. I mean, it's got that assortment of toppings. Okay, I want the sauce, I want the coleslaw, I want the onions, I want you know, these 20 different cheese. I mean, whatever you want on there, but it's going to end up weighing like 4 pounds of toppings for the one, 2 pounds of the other. I will say this though, we got there at around 11:40,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't. I mean, there were people there, but it wasn't too crowded. Time we left, like 12:35, 12:40 range. I mean, there was a long line of people to place their order. Not hard, it was hard to find a place to park. So I would get there a little bit before the peak dining times. Maybe about 30 minutes before noon, and then maybe if you're going to go for like a dinner or something there, maybe get there like at 3:30 or something. Don't wait till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock to go, because then there's just going to be that many more people there. But you're going to want to walk around. You're going to laugh at a lot of stuff that they have, out in the yard and everything. It's just a good time, and it certainly was a surprise. My wife was trying to surprise me for lunch, and she certainly did that with this.
Yeah. Well, what's the quote you like to use? If I had woken up with my head sewed to the carpet, I would not have been more surprised. I'm just
Exactly.
surprised you were able to turn down the Bubba's burger, the big bad double hubba 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 Bubba bacon burger, which is double meat, double cheese, double toppings, but only single bacon,
Well,
so it's healthy.
yeah, I knew I was going from there to Camden Park, and I didn't want to have too much to eat, knowing that I was going to be riding all these, some of these spin rides and things. So, um, I was a little careful with that, but I am, I already mentioned it tonight to my wife. Said we got to get back there. We got to go do that hillbilly um, hot dogs again.
Yeah, absolutely. So I understand that that's not the only place that you experienced as far as fine dining in West Virginia is concerned.
No, no, a place called Fat Patties, and the one we went to was located right by the university, or Marshall University.
Hmm.
Great, great burgers. It's kind of like a sports bar type thing. They had all, the basketball game was on, and they had the hockey playoffs and all that. Baseball games are on, college baseball, major league. So it's think of your sports bar type thing, but these burgers are like thick, Ryan, really thick.
Hmm.
And I had the one with the bacon, cheese, and A1 sauce on it, but lots of cheese on it. Fries are really good. My wife got the nachos, and you talk about cheese.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even see the nachos. It's just buried under all this cheese. But it's again, affordable. It's a nice little place. It's kind of a staple in the Huntington area, the Fat Patties, and I think there's 4 or 5 of them. But yeah, I would definitely put that on your list too, that you want to have either lunch or dinner at Fat Patties if you're in the West Virginia area. And that's why we really, was the big thing we were looking forward to going, because we had done that years and years ago. We had gone to Fat Patties, and so we were looking forward to that. And then while we're there, okay, I'm going to do Camden Park, and then we had the Hillbilly Hotdogs, and we did a few other things while we were there. But so put that on your bucket list too if you haven't done it. Fat Patties.
That's awesome. So Don, I know you rode roller coasters and you ate, and would imagine that would take up most of your time. But did you do anything else?
Yes, we did. We walked around the campus of Marshall University. It is a beautiful, beautiful campus. And in the campus, they have this memorial fountain, and it's got a plaque, and it's a symbol of remembrance. and resilience from the 1970 tragedy. It was November 14th, 1970, when 75 lives were lost in a plane crash, including 37 members of the football team, coaches, and staff. Now, I remember, I was real little, but I remember my dad mentioning that. He heard it on the news, and he was just like stunned that this football team went down and everything like that. So I had heard about it. And then obviously there's the movie that's out there now with Matthew McConaughey with the We Are Marshall,
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the better football movies that I've seen. But it was kind of a little bit chilling to see that, and you just start to think about this small town and what that would have been like in 1970 when that happened, and how it impacted the community, and how important the Marshall football team was to the community, that they started back up this program when a lot of people didn't think it was the right thing to do, but they needed that. That was a big thing, Marshall football on those Saturdays in the fall, and it was a school that changed the way college football was done, because at that time you couldn't play freshmen. So they had to keep petitioning the NCAA to allow them to use freshmen so they could field a football team again. So they kind of changed the rules back then. But that was another thing that's worth doing if you're in that area, is to just kind of stroll around the Marshall campus and look for that monument, that fountain, and read the plaque, look at all the names on there, and when you realize how small that town is, and just that it had to be, what kind of impact that had to have when that crash happened back then.
Okay, so Don, just for the sake of the people that are driving who can't Google this right now, that may not know what you're talking about, uh, can you recap the story of the tragedy of the Marshall football team just really quickly, just to the best of your ability?
Yeah, they were coming back from a road game. They had won a road game. There was a couple of players that were injured, did not make the trip. One coach was supposed to be on the plane right back, but he was sent off on a scouting trip. So those three, obviously for them, that was, they all should have been on the plane, but they weren't. But they're coming back. There's a storm. They're about 3 to 4 miles out from where they were going to land, in the Huntington area, and it hit kind of like the hillside of a mountain, and the plane just blew up in flames, and 75 lives lost. 37 of them were the players that were the football team. Then you had your coaches, your other staff, your broadcaster, your reporters, the media that accompanied the team. Everything was gone. And then you had these 2 players that were injured, and then you had the one coach who just felt so guilty that he wasn't on that plane, that he had a tough time, moving on from that. But they rebuilt the football team the next year. They brought it back. Were able to use freshman players to be able to field a team, and so it went on from there. But every year on that date, they have a little remembrance for that. And at that time when the plane crashed, everything kind of stops in that town for a little bit, so everybody can pay their respects to the lives that were lost.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that West Virginia isn't exactly Texas as far as seeing football is almost like a religion, but I'm sure that the Marshall fan base, especially around there where people are so, you got to understand, for those of you who,
That was the big thing you had to do in the fall on Saturdays. Marshall football. Everybody went to the games. They walked to the games, from the town. And there's a lot of houses and things in that neighborhood around there. So, and it's still the same way. When we were at Fat Patties, I was asking, the server about, how busy it gets on the football days. And, she was telling us that it is like the movie where, it's the big thing in town, and everybody looks forward to it. They tailgate, everybody, nobody has to really drive to it. They just all walk to it. And, it's just kind of chilling to see that and know that really happened.
yeah, I agree. And I mean, again, a terrible tragedy, and you
Very
always
yeah.
wonder, like, because you hear about, plane crashes are incredibly rare, especially if you're flying inside the United States. But you always wonder, like your local MLB team or whatever, they fly all the time. Like, what if their plane went down? And it's like, it's happened. And that's a good
Hmm.
example inside the United States, but a bunch of like, soccer or football teams, if you're, European, it's in the last 50 years, it's happened a lot. And it's just devastating because there's,
There was a Russian hockey team,
mhm.
that their plane crashed, and everyone on there were no survivors. I mean, the entire playing roster, the coaches, the trainers, their broadcaster, their media. So almost the same exact situation happened over in Russia. So that was within the last maybe 15 years that happened, and the same thing where they had to go, rebuild that hockey program with that team as well too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, thank God that we have, the safety standards that we do. So it is
Yeah.
very rare. At least,
Well, I knew a couple of players on that Russian team too. That when it went down, so one of the guys' name was Ruslan Saleh. He played for the Cincinnati Mighty
oh
Ducks.
no.
He was a first round pick of Anaheim. Great guy, but he had gone on. He'd played his 10, 12 years in the NHL and was still a pretty good player. And went over to finish his career back home in Russia. He was on that plane, so that hit home with me because I knew somebody that was on that plane.
Yeah. And that's not to play down the other things. Like, wasn't there like a junior hockey team about 5 years ago that rolled a bus or
There
something,
was,
and
there
10 or
was,
so
yes.
members got killed? Oh man. Okay, so
Very
yeah,
small town. But anyway, let's get on to
yeah,
some
yeah,
better
yeah, better
things here,
things. But if
Ryan.
you
And
guys do want to see
y-
like a dramatization, once again, the movie is We Are Marshall. I'm sure it's on some streamer somewhere at some point. So awesome.
yeah, you can just go to like Apple TV. I think has it. Hulu has it. So I'd watched it maybe about 4 or 5 months ago for the first time. Great movie. But Ryan, you heard about my trip, and you've got one coming up this weekend. I understand.
Yeah, I do. Not to disappoint, but we are sorry, I'm looking up to see if We Are Marshall is on a streamer so we can see if anybody listens to this stuff. Hate to make it so relevant just to the people that listen to it, within a few weeks of us putting it up, but We Are Marshall is available on Max. Max,
Max.
so like
Okay.
the old HBO when it merged with whatever, or as of the time of this writing, you can rent it with Apple for 3.99. Okay, yeah. So on to happier things. Yes, this weekend, taking a long weekend, actually a 4 day because we got the Juneteenth holiday on Monday, but
Mhm.
we are going back to Cedar Point. I mentioned before that we had an interest in checking out their Frontier Festival. So this is the last weekend of that. Um, yeah, we're going up there. But here's the interesting thing about it. So we booked Hotel Breakers because that's really the only way to do this stuff for Friday and Saturday night. And we were thinking, if we decide to go up Thursday, we'll just get a hotel in Sandusky or something, or maybe in something on the way or whatever, just so we're closer. Well, it's peak season. Hotels are very expensive. So we started looking and we're like, it costs about the same to get a Hilton as it does to get Breakers. So do we want to add the extra night? So we decided to do that. And then it came down to, well, if we book another night, we're not going to have the same room. We'll have to move rooms unless we call them. And we're like, well, who wants to call them? It's 21st century. So what we ended up doing is kind of interesting. We actually rented a cottage for the first night. I've been to the cottages at Lighthouse Point at Cedar Point, but I've never like stayed at them. I had a friend that was staying there, and we visited with them for a few hours one night. But yeah, we rented our own, and we're staying there the first night, and then we've got Lakeview at Hotel Breakers for the other nights. So that's going to be kind of exciting. I'm really looking forward to Frontier Festival. Gonna pick up the tasting card and stuff. I know that they have like live music and games and stuff like that going on, but I'm really looking forward to reporting back on this podcast how it looks for this year.
It's going to be a hoot nanny of a good time for
I
you.
believe it will. I know that they changed it quite a bit. Like last year, I think it was some sort of after hours event, and it was expensive, but you got a lot of benefit. Like everyone got a cowboy hat or something like that, which would have been cool, but or maybe that was 2 years ago. I don't know. But this is like an in park during hours kind of event, which is probably the appropriate thing for it. But
Yeah, I like that it's become something that they do every year. So it's kind of like a Coaster Mania, where you're also going to have this Frontier Festival every year. And then, if you like it, you're going to want to go back and do it again the next year. So it becomes something that, you got your rides and everything else, but there's different experiences that you can have. And this is one of the ones that, you don't even have to ride anything while you're there. You can just do the Frontier Festival and you're going to have a great time.
Let me ask you this, Don. So when we talk about the events that happen annually at a park, so you have an event, Grand Carnival, Frontier Festival, Six Flags has tons of events and stuff. It goes over really well the first year. You try to catch the lightning in a bottle again the second year. How long do you think it is before the thing is just amortized to the point where people are like, yeah, I've done that?
I think when it comes to something like this, where it's a food festival and there's all those different interactive things that you can do, and there's live music in that, I think it has a long shelf life.
So, I mean, do you think the trick to keeping it alive is to change it up every year so there's at least something new?
You can add some different elements and things to it, but then you also have that group that, if they go 3 or 4 years in a row and you change something up, they're not happy that something's not the same. So you have that, it's a fine balance that you have to do, because there are people who do not like change.
Yeah. And I suppose every year you learn a little bit, the first year you probably
You
learned.
do, and you tweak it and that.
Yeah.
But I think, number one, and we've talked about this, since we started the podcast, how just that the culinary experience has been elevated at parks, and Cedar Point is one of those parks where, if you went there 10 years ago and now you go there and have a meal, I mean, it's not even close. It's dramatically different. And then, they excel at their events that they do. So I think that, this is one that every year, as long as it comes back, you want to put on your calendar and you want to go there and, just enjoy the park in a different way. Don't feel like you have to keep trying to get on all the rides, everything like that. Just relax, have a good time, listen to some music, have some great food. So it's a different way to experience Cedar Point.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and it's one of those things that there's a trope out there which I think is pretty true. It's that, like, especially during the summer, if you're going to Cedar Point, like, you should probably work Fastlane into into your budget, because they have to draw a lot of people in a pretty narrow amount of time. Because it gets cold up there and it stays cold for a while. So the girlfriend and I discussed kind of like, we're not going to set goals of like, oh, I didn't get to ride this or that or whatever. It's going to be more about like hanging out on the beach, enjoying breakers. We're going to try to go swimming, maybe do Cedar Point Shores, which is terribly underrated, by the way. I'd always seen that from Magnum and thought it was, your typical water park, whatever. But group of friends I went with decided to go, and it's really fun and unique, So I'm really looking forward to that. My favorite part of Cedar Point, and I've probably mentioned this before, is hanging out on the beach after the sun goes down, because it can be 98 degrees in Sandusky during the day, but it'll get down to like 62 at night, and that nothing feels better than it being like hoodie weather after it's been hot all day. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll report back about that. I'll talk about what I did.
Yeah.
I'll tweet some stuff out with some, some photos and stuff like that. But it's really exciting. I actually got into like not pin trading. I'm not that guy, but let me ask you, do you know much about this? They have these pins there. Um,
Hmm.
and basically, there's like four different classes. Some of them are just like you can buy them for like $1, but some of them are like rare and ultra rare. But you have to buy like mystery packs, and the mystery pack will either have a rare or an ultra rare in it, at least one. So, and it's like cheap to do. So it's kind of like you get that euphoric thing of opening up the package and, seeing what pins you have. But we had some fun with that. I bought a couple packs of pins. I don't know if I have any. I don't have any sitting around here immediately close to me, but maybe they'll have some for Frontier. Actually, I know they have some for Frontier Festival. We'll probably end up getting those. Very cool. All right, so enough about our travels and our future travels. So that's content for next time. But without further ado, it's been a big news week, Don. This is
It has
this
been.
is a segment we like to call the Pick Six. All right.
I'll start it off.
Start it off, Don.
Fun spot, Kissimmee, Florida. which is near Orlando. Mind blower. The coaster has reopened following retracking the big project that they had. Just opened recently. So, what have you heard about it so far, Ryan? Any feedback that you're seeing out there about this retrack project?
I hate to say it, but I haven't heard any feedback yet. This article popped up in the late afternoon, so I'm wondering if it opened just earlier today.
A couple days
Was
ago,
it a
I
couple
think.
days ago?
I want to say within a couple days ago. Yeah,
Yeah, but it looks like they used the RMC. I can't remember what the manufacturer name. I was like 47 track or something like that.
yeah,
But yeah, that coaster was so intense. It really needed some sort of hug. So I'm glad that it's I'm glad that it's actually getting some attention. I might have asked you
yeah.
this last time.
I've talked to a couple of people that have that got to ride it, and they said it's better than it was. Still very intense. It's something that they'll want to do, but not a lot. So they liked it, didn't necessarily love it. Fun. If they got friends, they'll go do it. But they said it. The both reported it is a better ride than it was.
Okay. Well, baby steps. They can always, again, you talk about tweaking stuff and so on. That's uh, they weren't going to nail it on the first try, but the fact that it's better and it's notably better, that's pretty good. But yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, there's still some turns where it's kind of a little intense, and it always has been like that. So, um, but it's good to see that it's back open, and that is the kind of signature attraction at Fun Spot Kissimmee.
yeah, and shout out to RMC that got that done in like a month. That's probably was and it's in their prime season too. Like this is their busiest season, and they had to shut it down. Well, they didn't have to. They made the decision to shut it down to get this fixed. But we're back up, so that's pretty cool. All right,
What's next?
what's next? So Walt Disney World. There was an external research firm wanted to figure out what the most popular ride at Walt Disney World is. And Don, did you read this article? I sent you a link.
I did, and no surprise. What was the most popular in a lot of ways? I mean, it really wasn't a surprise, but it's a ride that's currently closed with Splash Mountain as being the most popular. But you expect to see that up there. You expect to see Space Mountain, up there. I was a little surprised to not see, right with those two, Haunted Mansion, which is my favorite ride there. I'm also a big Thunder Mountain fan, so. But again, no surprise that it was Splash Mountain. That's when you think of Walt Disney World, that's one of the first things that comes to mind as far as attractions go.
Yeah, and what a decision to change that. You talk about poking the bear, but I'm sure that the attraction that's replacing it is going to be yeah, rather exceptional. That they know what they're getting into. But I wanted to read an excerpt from this article because this goes into it. So Twilight Zone, Tower of Terror, and Space Mountain were at numbers 2 and 3, which only it makes me wonder because Tower of Terror isn't that high of capacity, and neither is Space Mountain. So this is certainly not the most ridden rides.
Most ridden, just the most popular that
It's
people want to do.
it's the most popular. Small World is
Yeah, Tower of Terror. I mean, it's great too. I mean, that's up there too with me.
that
I'm
is
thinking,
my favorite ride on Earth of any park
yeah.
anywhere.
I mean, I love that. And for me, I don't know. Just being a dark ride fan, for me, it's if everyone said you got one ride you can do, I'm going to do Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, that's what a great ride. So Small World is number 4, rounding out the top 10 in order are Rise of the Resistance, the Star Wars ride, Expedition Everest, Haunted Mansion. There you go. Big Thunder Mountain, Star Tours. That's kind of old school.
Yeah.
And Jungle Cruise. One surprise fact: the study, which looked at the most popular rides by state, found that in Florida is the only state where Splash Mountain is not the favorite. Oh, so Splash Mountain's not the favorite at Walt Disney World. This is just across all Disney parks.
Across all Disney parks, yes.
Wow. Okay, and then Epic. So Epcot's Guardians of the Galaxy is the new favorite there, which that has a little bit of novelty to it. So,
Yeah, you mentioned Small World. That is that is the only ride that I ever got sick on.
would you get sick of the song or something?
Yes, that's what made me sick. But no, really, that's the only ride I've ever got off of that and just didn't feel good. But no, I ride it every time I go, though. It's a classic. All
I
right,
enjoy the ride.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Moving on. The future of Jaga Lake in Aurora, Ohio. It is finally revealed. So they're gonna repurpose that land. It looks like they've got a pretty interesting plan.
Yeah, you talk about reminiscent of here. We talked about LaSwordsville Lake earlier, which is now a public park. What's going to happen with Yaga Lake?
Well, I think they're looking to put what they're it's going to be like. It's not going to be an amusement park again. We know that, at least
It
right
will
now it
not.
wouldn't be.
Yeah,
But it'll be more of like maybe like a swimming pool type thing. Just kind of almost what you see now with what became of Americana. Something like that.
that's exactly what I was talking about. It looks like so the city plans to buy the land because the land has been sitting vacant for 15 years now, so it's probably
Yeah.
almost a nuisance, which is exactly the issue that they had with Americana, but or LaSwordsville Lake for you old schoolers. So the proposal from the city of Aurora is 4.5 million to industrial commercial properties for the property to be redeveloped into a public park with a pool, beach, and much more. And this is all on the lakefront.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, the beach thing will be nice because like you said, you got the lakefront there, so that'll be a nice, nice thing for families in that area to go, and you got the pool, but then it says much more, so who knows what that is? I would imagine maybe some restaurants or something could go on, in there.
Yeah, that would be really cool. But the article continues with a little bit more detail. It said under the purchase agreement, ICP will build a lake loop trail boardwalk around Yaga Lake, which the city will own and maintain. Company will also pay for a substantial portion of the demolition costs, so that there's still a few structures there. Um, well, so here's a cool thing. So some of the structures from the former SeaWorld Ohio, including the iconic aquarium, may be saved and rehabilitated to use in the city's plans. The aquarium, for example, may be redeveloped as a restaurant or a similar facility. That is cool. I like it.
Yeah, I'm just glad that land's going to be repurposed and used again. It's kind of depressing for amusement park fans, when they drive through that area and they just see what used to be there and nothing's there. It's kind of depressing. So it's kind of exciting to see that it's using again, not what it was before. We're not bringing back Jaga Lake, but it looks like it's got a future now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the land, if you can't have the park back, which you can't, at least there's a legacy there. I know the original plan was that either Meyer or Target wanted to buy it, and they couldn't get city approval. So I don't know exactly the ins and outs of that. And then they were talking about like, I think that the only thing that's been developed is there's like a car dealership that was on one of the parking lots where it was, but the rest of it is just there's a few ruins, but mainly it's just nothing. You know, all right. So let's move right along. So what are we on? Number 4. Hershey Park, our friends up in Hershey, Pennsylvania. They're hosting a new event for coaster enthusiasts called Coaster Fans Event. Coaster Fans Event. A lot of the other ones were taken up by that point. That's going to be July 8th. It's going to be ERT on Fahrenheit and the Jolly Rancher remix in the morning. Night ERT on Wildcats Revenge and Lightning Racer. And then it'll have a catered lunch, Q&A with the Hershey Park Director of Engineering, Brad Kirkham. So Hershey Park is a park that is so at the top of my bucket list, I can't tell you. I have not been there yet. What are your thoughts on Hershey Park and what they have going on right now?
Love Hershey Park. One of my favorite roller coasters, and you never see hardly anyone ever put this on their list, is the Hershey Park Comet, an old classic, wooden roller coaster. But I like the park. I think it's surprised they never really got into having a park sponsored coaster event there. They've had been part of the like the annual Ace Summer Cons and those kind of things. They've been included in that in the past, but when you look at that part of Pennsylvania, I mean, it's like a hotbed for coaster enthusiasts. It's one of the strongest regions out there for the American coaster enthusiasts. So it seems like it's it's perfectly geared to have an enthusiast event and have it be very well attended. So it's exciting to see them, putting this event together and watching how it grows in the years ahead.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they opened up Wildcats Revenge, so what a year to do it. Feedback on that ride's been really good. What have you heard about that?
Good feedback. It's a lot of, I'm not super big on those top 10 lists and all those kind of things that, that are out there, but a lot of coaster enthusiasts have put that in their top 10. And maybe it's gone from a park they visited once a year to maybe now they're looking at going 2 or 3 times a year. So it's definitely a ride that has made an impact with the enthusiast community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't been there. I've got friends that are season pass holders that live around here, and they said there's so much to do. They've got their own kind of like city walk thing. They've got their whatever that dark ride is. That's like the history of Hershey's.
Hmm.
I don't know. I definitely want to make it out there. It's just a bit of a drive, but man, I do want to do it.
Yeah, it's about what 9 hours from us, so it's out there. But then you got to go to the Hershey the chocolate factory. You got to do that tour while you're there too. So you're gonna need more than one day.
Is it Chocolate Town? Is that the name of the tour? I think they call it Chocolate Town. I could be wrong.
Chocolate Town, I think it's something Chocolate Town or whatever. But yeah, when I was working in pro hockey, Hershey was one of my favorite road cities that we went to because we got to go tour the chocolate factory.
Well, I mean, you don't go to Hershey without touring the chocolate factory. Let's be honest here.
That's right.
All right, what do we have up next?
Up next, and this is my favorite of the pick
Oh no, it's
sixes.
about Bucky's,
The
isn't it?
wait, the wait is almost over. June 26th, mark your calendar. The Bucky's in Sevierville, Tennessee, right off of exit 407, is going to be opening. That date has been confirmed. I'm very excited. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm excited because I always stop at Bucky's on the way down to Pigeon Forge, but I never stop on the way up because by the time I hit like the Richmond market, I'm like eager to get home. But now I've got one to stop because I'm so far from home that I don't care. So I can get my
Well, when I'm headed down that way, I'm making a stop at both of them. One of them for breakfast, then go get my lunch at the other one, and then when I come back, it's going to be breakfast at the Sevierville one, and then I'll get my lunch at the other one. So super exciting, for me and Bucky fans around the country to have this one finally open. It's been highly anticipated since plans were announced to build it. I've followed the construction closely. It was originally going to open on June 5th. Had that happened, I would have gone there, but it didn't happen. Not able to go for the grand opening on the 26th this month, but I'm going to get there in August. So I think August 17th is what I have on my calendar. Um, but I'm super excited about it that it finally has an opening date. And Ryan, I don't know if you know of anyone that's a bigger Bucky's fan than I am.
the only people I would know is people making money off this whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
it's a
so
lot of fun.
you've told us that your favorite food there is the melts, but have you ever tried the
Yeah.
burritos?
Yes, especially the breakfast ones.
Have you ever tried like there's like a ground beef one? I
Hmm.
think that one's my favorite. And then there was one that was like Philly cheesesteak that I had last time. That was really good. Uh,
Had that too. Yeah,
but
I've had that. The briskets. I mean, the brisket's still really good too. But I don't know. There was just something about the melt sandwich that had that little kick to it that it just became my favorite, and that's my go-to every time I go. I have to at least get the melt, and then I'll get other things around it. But the melt's certainly going to be one item I'm picking up.
Yeah, thing I always think is funny about the melt is that you see it and you think it's going to be like super savory, and you forget that whatever like mustard's on it or whatever is
All that stuff gets all over your shirt and
well,
everything else.
no,
It's
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 a
like
mess.
super like spicy. I mean, this isn't a
Yeah, yeah.
spicy sandwich, but you mentioned it has a kick to it, and you bite
Got a kick to
into
it,
it,
yeah.
and then
But it's a mess though. You take a bite and it starts like it kind of like drips down. I mean, it's great.
yeah, they should probably have those bibs like they have at the rib places and stuff.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would make sense. All right, last story of the night. So, kind of a sad one, but I actually came across this just in time for it to make it on the show. But Holiday World today announced on their social media that they're retiring their Raging Rapids ride. Um, says Holiday World is closing its Raging Rapids ride after 3 decades. Um, Well, okay, this is their exact quote that they put up. After 33 years and millions of happy memories, Raging Rapids has officially retired. We know that this attraction means a lot to our guests, and it does to us too. While this may feel like an ending, it's just the beginning. We intend to return the sound of laughter to Boulder Canyon as soon as we possibly can. So, we can't really speculate, but this is sudden, you know? Decisions like this are very difficult to make. I'm sure, especially like we're just at the hot point of the year, and then they shut down
Right.
this ride that, um, like for me, I don't typically do water rides. Like I don't want to get my shoes all wet, my clothes all wet and stuff. But especially the people that aren't roller coaster people are typically water ride people, and they're very committed to that stuff. So that's kind of a bummer. So have you been on that? When was the last time you were at Holiday World? First
I
of all.
have. Last time I was at Holiday World,
Hmm.
it's been about 4 years, right before the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what. So it's a bummer. It's sad. But I'm sure that they'll do something really cool. And they've got Thunderbird, and you don't. So you don't have Thunderbird in your backyard, is what I'm saying.
No, no, no. It's an. I said that. What is that? 33 years old for this ride. It's you know, you're, almost like a Whitewater Canyon kind of raft ride to it. But that's a long time, for an attraction. Once you get into that, your 3 decades plus. And every ride has, and we've talked about this a lot, Ryan, is every ride has an expiration date on it, and it gets to a point that you just have to move on.
Yeah, and it's funny because as you were saying that, well, and like I've thought about this a lot over the past couple hours because when you're retiring your like Schwarzkopf Arrow, something like that, that's 30 or 40 years old, most of the time, and this isn't speaking on behalf of anybody, but they probably do their stress test. They understand that it's got 5 years left of being safe. So you've got 1 year left in the park, and I was thinking like, well, that's not true with this kind of ride because it's water and it's pumps and stuff, and pumps can be rebuilt. But um, again, not to speculate, and I don't know anything outside of the words that are put here, but I know that having worked in water parks and stuff before, that as soon as like a pool starts leaking, that's it. Because you're going to be chasing those holes in the dam for the rest of the existence of that thing. So if I had to
Yeah,
guess, it was something like that. But again, Holiday World, I'm sure will come up with something fantastic to replace it. And you should probably just be riding Thunderbird anyway, because that's the best wing coaster on Earth. All right. Oh, so Don, we made it through an episode where we didn't have a full subject matter, and it was just us rambling. So if you listen this far, please tweet at us, or like, if you want to, you can private message us with your feedback, because we try new things. And if you thought this was like terribly boring or super interesting or whatever, let us know so we can help format this stuff in the future. We would never do this exclusively, just like we would probably never do guests exclusively or just one-on-one with us exclusively too. We're going to make variety out of it, but we would love your feedback with this stuff. Do you have any final words of wisdom, Don?
I just think we need to touch on something serious for a second here, Ryan, and that is packs of stray dogs that control most of the major cities.
Yeah, that is touching. Nothing in the world can tear a family apart faster than a pack of stray dogs.
I mean, it's a serious problem.
In which major cities?
Every major city.
Every single one. Okay.
No, no, this was a lot of fun though, Ryan. Just kind of like I said, just for us trying something new, talking about, um, just our own experiences visiting, different parks and some of the events and things that are going out there. Not something we want to do every week, like you mentioned, but also something that I think it has its place at times. It's more of a traditional podcast having these kind of conversations like we did today, but we're not traditional.
Yeah, we're very untraditional and unconventional.
Unconventional. That's the right word for it.
All right. Well, okay. So for those of you watching the YouTube videos, thank you so much. If you want to listen to the audio version, make sure you check us out on your favorite podcast apps. If you want to watch us on YouTube, we do a video version. It's not just like an image sitting there. Search for the Attractions Group podcast. Follow us on Twitter at attractions_GRP. If you're interested in sponsorship opportunities, send us a private message and we will give you the package details. Don, thanks again for being my co-host today.
It's been fun.
All right. We'll see you next week, everybody.